Hey everybody, welcome back to Gun Totin' Minnesotan. My name is Andrew. What you're looking at here is a Hunter's LPVO optic. It's a 1:6 first focal plane with a 34mm tube, side illumination, and capped turrets, as well as lens cap covers. I've got it in their one-piece mount, as you can see here, which does have torque specs, 65 inch-pounds for the mount on the side for your pick rail claw attachment, and then 25 inch-pounds for the top of the scope rings. Make sure that when you mount it, you don't get too close to your erector tube assembly or crunch it too tight. You want to make sure it's spaced out properly, set up well with your rear diopter for the reticle sharpness, and go through the right process. You will have good results with this optic, I'm confident, if you at least do those things. What I'm going to do today is tell you a little bit about the optic, show you some of the zeroing process, some downrange footage, at least out to 220 yards today with supersonics and subsonics in this 300 blackout. I'm going to discuss a little bit of the reticle function and how things work concerning the features. It's kind of a brief video, and then I'm going to finish talking about first focal plane, second focal plane, and some of the other options that Hunter's has if this isn't exactly what you're interested in. With that being said, let's get started, and I'll show you some of the process. All right, what you're looking at here is the Hunter's Optics 1:6 by 26. This is a first focal plane. You do have the Hunter's one-piece mount. It's a cantilever mount, which just gives you a little bit of room on a flat platform or a flat top rail like this 300 blackout, and then it gives you a little bit better eye relief when you cantilever certain optics forward on certain platforms. These rings, I do not go above 24 or 25 inch-pounds, because at that point, it's going to make things hard to operate and move. It's going to crunch your image, so please respect the numbers that are put on there for your torque specs. Use a torque wrench if you don't have a good indication. Just go lightly and don't overdo it. Once things stop moving, that's a good indication that you have crushed your tube or you're squeezing it too much to the point where things can't operate as intended. The optic comes with some scope caps. I'm going to take those covers off, but you do have one for both objectives, and on the rear you have your reticle focus. So this is a fast focus, which means it does not lock. It moves by actuating either to the left or to the right, and that's going to change essentially reticle sharpness to your eye. So you're not adjusting this for image necessarily to try to make that downrange image more clear. That would be more like a parallax knob. This is essentially better understood as something for your reticle. Now, when you do adjust this, it's going to adjust and change your one power. If you want a true one power, then spend a little extra time setting up your diopter exactly how it ought to be, and you'll get a truer one power. No 1:6 or LPVO is going to have a true 100% one power, but you can get pretty darn close if you spend some time on the eyepiece itself. Now, that being said, this is a 1:6 power, so I'm going to grab this magnification lever. It moves relatively smoothly and with medium effort to go back and forth. There is a texture built into this, but I prefer the magnification assist lever. It's kind of got this pyramiding on it. It does flare out a little bit. It is also removable. If this was going to run into something, maybe you're running this on a bolt action platform, you still get a little bit of a shark fin or a nub here. But on an AR, I like the cattail. I like that thing hanging out, so I have something quick to adjust, go between 1 and 6 power. Now, one of the benefits of this being a first focal plane is that the reticle does change along with magnification in size. So proportionality is going to change. The size of your reticle is actually going to change as you go from 1 power to 6 power. That is not the case on the second focal plane version that I reviewed of this already. The second focal plane subtensions stay the same size all throughout the magnification range, which some people like because it gives you a large reticle on 1 power, and at close distance shooting, that can be beneficial to achieve a larger or more consistent reticle that you're familiar with, and it's just faster for acquisition, some people would say. My opinion is I like first focal plane most of the time, and especially if you throw on a little illumination, which this has daylight bright illumination on level 11, 1 power. Here's a quick shot of that reticle at about 125 yards. There's setting 11. You can see that the reticle is illuminated all the way through, but on 1 power, and try not to be too finicky here, on 1 power, it's still visible to me. I can see it a little better than you can on the camera. Bright enough. And on anything past 1 power, it's pretty doable. So that's 11 power, and then as I rotate through, it's going to be more dull and maybe purposeless to move beyond that for your viewing. But just so you know, at 11 power, I think it's sufficient for most days, even if there's a little sun out and I'm shooting against the snow. I think that's going to contrast plenty well, and that's been my experience so far. There it is one more time. You're looking at 6 power at about 125 yards. And level 11 for illumination gives you something really sharp and quick to pick up, and I find that it's got a huge field of view, just like the second focal plane would, but then I can still zero it on whatever power I want, and if I'm using holdovers, whether I'm on 4 power, 5 power, 6 power, it doesn't matter, because technically those reticle subtensions are changing with the magnification as I'm dialing or moving back and forth on this lever up top, and so that I can have a true zero, and I can have a true point of impact for my subtensions if I so choose to use them. I do have a 34 millimeter tube. It's a large size tube. You're going to get much more internal elevation with a 34 millimeter tube versus like a 30. The larger size tube that I'm seeing here does provide a lot of internal elevation. These have non-lockable turrets. So this does not have a zero stop, and it is not a lift to operate. It's a capped turret. And anytime I see a design like that, I know that it's going to be a little easier to zero when I have numbers here and the clicks, the values. You know, it's half MOA per click, which is a great way to do an MOA optic or an LPVO. But I know I'm not going to be taking this cap off very often to actually dial to a target. That's probably not the main intended use of an optic like this. Typically, it's going to be that reticle information, and that's where the greatest value is the reticle itself is what I want to use to hold over a target. But if I want to take this off, and I know the difference between having a can on my gun or off my gun, and maybe that's just a 1 MOA difference in point of impact, I can make a quick adjustment, and there is a zero reset here by lifting the top Torx off, or Starbit, or Allen. This is an Allen on this one. So I'll remove that Allen, and when it's totally loose, then I can set it back on zero on this side, tighten it down, and throw my cap back on, just in case you do need a reference point for any adjustments you'd make. Same for elevation and windage. All right, even with a full-length shusher on there, I prefer to still wear hearing protection until I know what those decibel readouts are going to look like. It's going to be quieter than any other can that I've run right now. I'm confident of that. I just want to be careful with my ears. That's pretty quiet. Wow. Yep, pretty quiet. Wow. All right, let's take the ears off. That's impressive. These are supersonic loads. Yeah, I mean, I've got a shed right next to me that sound is bouncing off of, and I'm going to say that's still super comfortable. I am really impressed with that. That's not with the flat cap on the end. That's with the flow-through design or style end cap, which allows gases to, extract. It's still running well. Like my gun, my 300 Blackout, can shoot subs and supers really reliably. I'm so happy with that. And it looks like, I don't see any mirage. It's not even warm. My goodness. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, I'm excited. And zeroing this optic, is going to take me 3 seconds now just to finish that up. I'm going to go ahead and do that and come back. No hearing protection on because this can is incredibly effective. All right, how about that square guy? A little to the right, I think. Wow. It's actually kind of a nice reticle. I was able to put that center loop, that horseshoe with the center dot, right on that square. And it doesn't obstruct the target at all. I'm able to see plenty, but it also allows me to quickly find the reticle and quickly place it on something. And then I also could still see where I missed on that. All right, load up this 220 in my 10 round magazine YouTube. Very much so a 10 round magazine. And I'm gonna have to guess on a hold here. I'll go for the big round. Oh, that's pretty quiet. Probably not enough pressure to function, these guys. The other subs ran perfectly. I'm gonna guess that these are a little slow. Need a little more back pressure, perhaps. I think it actually loaded. Yeah, it did. Yep. How about that square? Let's go for that square. A little low. Where are those going? A little bit off. Yeah, it started feeding them. Maybe I just need to put a little gas into the can. First one definitely had that hiccup on it, but yeah, that could have just been because of the empty can. Who knows? The rest of them seem to run just fine. A little higher quality subsonics maybe won't have that issue. Let's go back to the big circle. Yeah, those are all running fantastically. Crazy quiet, by the way. That is a big quiet carrot on the end, but it works really well. Not even hot. I'm very happy with that. Reticle performance was good. I was able to quickly ascertain where those misses were. Even on 6 power, I could see it in the dirt down there. And then I just went and held to another line. Again, I'm not dialing on anything. I'm not making those corrections unless I think it's a true correction for supersonics. Most of the time, I'm just going to be dialing or holding over rather. And in this case, I think I am impacting a little bit right with both supers and subs. So I just gave it a slight correction there. The fact that it's in half MOA increments makes it really quick. Okay, we're gonna see what happens with these subs at 220. I don't know exactly where they hit. I have a good guess, but I don't know exact. I'm gonna go for that large square using just the reticle once again. 220 should put me about here. A little low. A little low left. It's a lot of drop. The reticle could get me there. The optic could get me there. The round was capable, even though I had to work my way out. I'm very happy with the fact that reticle is really quick to adjust. I didn't have to worry about dialing anything on top. I just grabbed onto the actual location of the impact, the miss, and then I shifted the reticle up. And because it has subtensions and values in there, it's easy for me to read that quickly and make an adjustment and walk it out there within a few shots within a round that I really didn't know where it would hit, and you know, it's a subsonic technically. Little bit more predictable. That optic definitely gets it done. Eye box is pretty comfortable. Light collection is decent, looking into the shadow. And one more time, one of the big benefits of an optic like this is it has a reticle with subtensions, values, and information. And when I throw on a little bit of illumination, it contrasts really brightly. It's easy to quick pick out where those misses were, left or right, low in the sand, and then make an adjustment as necessary without having to worry about turrets. So maybe this one seems pretty close for you. You like the fit and finish, you like the objective size, you like the tube size, lots of internal elevation, maybe you like MOA or you like the reticle, but the one limiting factor for you might be that it's a first focal plane rather than a second focal plane. You want the reticle to stay the same size even when you change magnification, and you don't mind the point of impact shift that occurs with a second focal plane. If that's the case and you prefer that, and this is hitting the right budget for you and the other features seem spot on, then go ahead and watch this video over here, which is probably more in line with what you're looking for. If this isn't exactly what you want, maybe you don't even want an LPVO, I've got some other videos that you can watch on my channel right here.